Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest with us today, Stephanie Chapman. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us who you are and what you do.
So I am the CEO and founder of MomStrong. I'm a certified mindset and lifestyle coach, and my main goal is to help entrepreneurial moms really just achieve a life and legacy that they're most proud of.
I love the title. You added me as a friend on Facebook before we got together today, and I loved the title of your business. I thought that was pretty awesome. So it's MomStrong.
Yes.
Very cool. How long have you been CEO and founder?
So I started my business back in October of 2019 with the intention of being an online personal trainer. I was an in-person personal trainer for many years before that, and I just decided, I wanted to be with my kids more. So it's like, maybe it'll give me a little bit more time and location freedom to be online. I started that and I absolutely hated it. It was not what I was expecting. It just was just not the same as being in person. And so I decided to bring in other, skills and talents that I had developed over the years. And mindset seemed to be the foundation to everything. And so January of 2020, I launched MomStrong and I became a mindset mentor.
And then the universe handed you this package called COVID.
Yes, a few months after that, which in the grand scheme of things, it happened to work out really well because I was already online and doing the thing, and I just kind of, kept growing from there.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, like you were going online, and then the whole world was forced online at that point.
Yes, yeah,
so that kind of worked out.
It did. It was like perfect timing.
Yeah. So has I know you in 2019 you wanted to be home more with the kids. Has this shift kind of helped with that, or business is always a little messy?
Yes, it's definitely messy. So I'm definitely home more. I do have the time and location freedom that I wanted. But I also have found myself struggling, in a way to balance all of the things, just because I am extremely passionate about what I do and who I'm serving. And it's really hard to put that down and tend to my own life sometimes. And of course, I love my kids. I want to be there for my kids as much as possible. But I also love my business and I love my clients. And, finding that balance can be difficult at times.
Yeah. And as the kids get older, they may need you more or less. And as your business grows, it may need you more or less. And so it's like this constantly changing universe, right?
Yeah,
to call it.
Well, and I have my youngest is 4, and then my oldest is 13. And so of the other, I have 5 kids total. Sorry, I didn't say that in the beginning. So they all kind of range in between there, and they're just at such different stages in their life. And like you said, each one of them requires a different level and a different part of me.
Yeah. So you had mentioned in another conversation that you and I had, sort of in a questionnaire you filled out, about kind of the guilt that you feel running your business sometimes not being where you want to be at the time that you want to be. And that's my favorite topic.
Yes. Yeah, the mom guilt is definitely there. Like I said, my intention was to be able to be more present with my kids, and then I just find myself being very torn on, you know, where I need to be that day. And it's very just go with the flow. And, you know, there are times I actually just moved into my own office a few months ago because with summer coming, I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to focus on my clients. And I almost felt guilty charging my clients the amount that I needed to sustain my business if I've had constant distractions. So having my own space away from all of that was necessary. But now I get the questions of why are you always leaving to go to the office, Mom? So now I have that other, you know, guilt factor added in.
Yeah. And those kids, they're just like
they're so needy.
so needy. They just want every minute of our time, don't they? I know my son's schedule this summer has been interesting. I'm pregnant with twins. I'm a surrogate, and I've never had twins before. It was never part of my plan to have twins. Somebody else had a different idea, I guess. But I'm not exaggerating when I say about a month, I would come home and I would go straight to my bedroom, and I would basically go to sleep because I was so nauseous that my strategy was I'm going to sleep through it because it's as much as I can, because it was just awful.
Yeah.
And during that month, you know, my son's 10 years old and he had a lot more freedom and a lot less structure. And then, you know, being 10 and having a tablet and a phone that he can watch videos on, he goes to bed and he's watching videos until 3 or 4 in the morning. And so he actually got into this day-night reversal, where I'm getting up for work or I get up at 5, so I can have some alone time. And then I'm leaving the house at 6:30 to go to work. And he woke up one day at 5:30, or I should say he came out of his room. I have no idea if he was awake.
Right.
Like he heard me and came out, or if he woke up and came out. But it was kind of shocking at that point. And that's kind of when I realized that he was starting this reversal. And then I would come home and he'd be asleep. So he was sleeping when I was home, and I was sleeping when he was awake. And so it was like I was literally not seeing him. Yeah. And so this last week he was awake when I would be leaving, and he's like, "Why are you leaving?" Because I gotta go to work. This is the time I go to work. Right. You're supposed to be sleeping right now. But it does, you know, produce a little bit of guilt. And in this situation, you know, I came home and he was awake, and I'm saying hi to him, and he's playing a video game, and I just get nothing but attitude from him because I'm disrupting his game.
Right.
And I'm just like, I haven't seen you. I feel like I hadn't seen him in a month.
Yeah.
I'm getting an attitude from you.
Yeah.
And my feelings are hurt. My feelings are hurt. Like I'm excited that you and I are awake at the same time. Can you be excited too? So it happens to all of us. And I've always joked that they hand you a baby and a sack of guilt.
Yes. They come together.
So I'm curious, does the guilt get worse with each kid, or is it just an equal amount?
I think it gets better over time. Mm-hmm. I think you start to accept it really and start to be okay with it. And I feel like I had to change my mindset around why I was gone. Mm-hmm. You know, why I'm not always there. And ultimately it is for them. It's to give them the life that, you know, I always wanted them to have, especially my boys. I was a 2-time teen mom. And so I had my first at 17, second at 19, and I didn't have very much. I didn't have time, I didn't have money, I didn't have anything. And so I don't ever want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, me building what I have and continuing to do that ensures that that's never going to happen again.
Right. And you did, you know, one of the only things that you can do in that situation, because you have two choices. You can go back to where you were, or you can change your mind about the situation and change how you're thinking about it, because there's so many benefits of what you're doing that you're teaching them through your actions that they're learning. My son came home the other day. He goes, "Mom, I'm an entrepreneur." And he was selling Rubik's Cubes to his classmates, because one kid got into Rubik's Cubes and then my son obsessed on it and made it way more popular and then started selling them to the kids. And I was like, well, okay, that works.
That's amazing.
But, you know, that's from an example of, I've always been self-employed since before he was born. And so he's seen me do that throughout his whole life. And so you know, I'm a little biased, but I think entrepreneurship is probably one of the best paths. It can be a difficult path, but in my point of view, it's like you have to choose your heart. And you know, you can choose your heart of going to work and having your schedule set by somebody else and come and go when they want you there, versus having a little bit of flexibility and freedom, working for yourself, when we set boundaries around our business, right?
Yes. And I feel like, you know, that's a whole other conversation of, like, you tell your friends and your family what you're doing and you get the comments of, why don't you get a real job? Like, if you ever struggle or things like that. And it's like, well, what I'm doing is real. You know, I am creating and building something better than going to work for somebody else or some corporation. You know, I'm actually making an impact and making a difference. And, you know, your kids do see that.
Yeah. And I'm in a program right now called Entrepreneurial School, because entrepreneurship is the mindset of an entrepreneur is something that we're born with, but it gets taught out of us. And so, you know, through the schooling system, we get turned into employees. Yes. And so this course is untraining our brain and retraining it back to entrepreneurship. And you just said something that made me think of that, and then I can't remember what was it that you just said?
I was just saying how friends and family judge what you do, you know, and they just don't see the impact that you're creating. They just don't seem to understand. Yeah,
because they've been, you know, programmed into the employee, you know, go get a job and work 40 years and get your pension. And I don't know about you, but by the time I entered the workforce, there weren't pensions anymore. There wasn't this, you know, you retire and now you still make the same amount of money. Unless you're a teacher, that's pretty much, as far as I'm aware of, the only profession that still has this pension. So
yeah, I know certain government employees have certain benefits afterwards, but I mean, it's definitely not the same as it used to be.
It's not. And, you know, there is a lot more freedom, and there's a lot more where you just need to be disciplined. And when you're showing that discipline, your kids are learning that discipline. And what's the biggest complaint of this generation is that they're not disciplined, right?
That's so true. Well, and, you know, they think of discipline in the traditional sense, you know, and in reality, we don't need that type of discipline. And us, I think where we are, you know, we're noticing that and seeing that we need to change that.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you've used to kind of relieve some of the guilt from I think what you wrote was that working too much, maybe. I'm using air quotes.
Yeah, that's really what it is it's dedicating more of my time to my business versus being at home. But I really am just trying to make my time at home more memorable and just give my kids experiences instead of gifts, things like that, they're going to remember those moments that I was with them rather than the moments that I wasn't. I feel like that's kind of been key for switching not only my mindset, but theirs too. It's like, okay, if mommy goes to work and I made, $1,000 today, look at what we can do.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I've always talked about quantity of time or quality of time versus quantity. Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of stay-at-home moms that are just like, okay, go play, right. And because I've got to do this and this, because stay-at-home moms are working too. We're not, unless the house is a complete disaster, we're not just sitting around playing with the kids all day, and there's a lot of quantity of time at that point, but the quality is not there because it's like, well, I'm with them. So it's fine. I have them
all the time.
I have them all the time. So I don't need to have quality time. And obviously this is a generalization. It's not every stay-at-home mom is one way or another. But, when I've given an example of like the mom that has to work 3 jobs and she might only have 15 minutes where her kids are awake per day. And, if you make those 15 minutes as special as possible, your kids are going to remember, and think of you as like, my mom was kick-ass, like she took care of us. Yep. And then I got those 15 minutes with her and she made me feel so loved and special during that time.
Yeah. Well, my mom, she was a single mom when I was growing up, and, my dad had remarried. I stayed with him the majority of the time, saw her on the weekend, but I still remember having so much more time with my mom because she went through so much more effort to make the time special.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that on the other side as much. Of course, I still have good memories. I had a pretty good childhood. I was pretty spoiled. But I just do remember a lot more of my mom during my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom tells a story. Like I don't remember all of this because I was so young. I was about 3 or 4 years old. My mom was in school, working 30 hours a week as a house cleaner or housekeeper, taking 18 units at Fresno State University to become a teacher. She had 3 kids and she was essentially single. And she was stuttering and her eye was twitching.
Oh my God.
And I wouldn't let her go to bed until she vacuumed the Fido from my room. And that was my word for spiders. And I'm like, my mom was tough because my son's terrified of spiders, and I don't think I ever vacuum his room.
You're on your own.
I mean, he's visiting his dad for a week, and then he's going to be going to camp the following week after that. And so I've stripped his room of anything that that can absorb, the chemicals of a bug bomb, and we're going to put a bug bomb in there because he's gotten a couple of spider bites, and so we're going to get rid of them.
Bye-bye.
We live in the country. What are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
But like that's my task. He left yesterday, and so my task today is to collect all the stuffed animals that can't be washed, and then all the blankets that can. And we're deep cleaning the room and gonna set off a bug bomb tomorrow while nobody's home.
Yeah, we even run our stuffed animals and stuff through the dryer because I know they can't be washed, but I figured the heat of the dryer will kill whatever is anywhere.
Yeah, I was like, well, we can't wash some of them; they'll disintegrate. Some of these will disintegrate in the washing machine. I'll throw them in the dryer though, because I think that'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
we haven't had any issues yet.
yeah, you know, it's like you gotta do what you gotta do. But like my mom was a trooper because she just did it. And I mean, I was probably loud and obnoxious because I remember how I was. She probably couldn't get me to go to sleep any other way. And so vacuuming was not as hard as dealing with me crying.
Right. That's very true. Pick and choose your hard.
Right, exactly. Pick your hard. Especially since she was cleaning houses for a living. So she probably had the vacuum in my room just ready to go.
Oh man, that's funny.
And I didn't remember that story. Obviously I was too young, but I remember there was a commercial where they had, and I think it was a Sam Goodies commercial, which I don't even think that company's around anymore.
No.
But it was a music, they sold music, I think. And they had dancing spiders, and they were dancing to, you know, hip hop and R&B and like whatever it was. And I remember saying to my mom, I was like 12 or 13 years old. I was like, I think I'm like arachnophobic because I watched this video, this like, commercial, and it gave me like the heebie-jeebies. And she was like, seriously, you didn't know you were arachnophobic? Let me tell you a story.
Oh my goodness.
So moms are the best. Like especially when you have a good mom. I know there's not always great moms out there, but good moms there's nothing like it.
Right. That's so true. Even my stepmom is amazing. You know, Mom Strong came from the strength that I saw, you know, growing up. You know, my stepmom, my mom, even my grandma, you know, they were always the foundation of our family, and they held everything together. They always made things work no matter what the men in their lives were choosing to do in that moment. I'm not going to bash men or anything by any means, but you know, we do grow up with some of those experiences of seeing people coming and going and not being the foundation we need. And all of the women in my life always were.
Yeah. That's an incredible legacy that you're part of. And I'm sure you're passing that along to your kids.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was one of my biggest passions. And I'm hoping to create, you know, through my coaching, essentially create that same thing in other families too.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, that's what you're creating, and the legacy that you're leaving in the world. And I think your kids will be proud of that.
I do too. Thank you.
Is there a piece of advice that you want to give to moms?
Go for the big dream.
Mm.
Don't hold yourself back. We all have excuses. We all have hurdles. We all have things that are going to hold us back, but just go for it anyways. You know, go all out on yourself for once.
Yeah. I think you were talking to me with that one.
I feel like every mom needs to hear that, because we don't go all in on ourselves. We don't take the big chances. You know, we really hold back because we want that safety net for our kids, and we don't want to give that up. We want to stay safe. We want to stay in our bubble or our box, and real growth doesn't happen unless you get out of that.
And what would any mom tell her kids is what you would just said, is go for your dreams, right? We would never tell our kids, like, you know, you should take a job that doesn't really make you very happy.
You should just be complacent. You should just stay there. Yeah, we'd never say that. Even to our best friend, we would never say that. So why do we say that to ourselves every day? You know, we need to stop that inner monologue.
Yeah. My birthday is in 3 weeks, and I had to do a little math. And I'm turning 40, and it's been a struggle the last couple of years, knowing that 40 was approaching. And I was driving home yesterday, and I said to my boyfriend that I don't want to wake up at 50
and be feeling like I really need to get into my writing again. like like I am at 40, and because I was a writer when I was for as long as like I could put two sentences together. I've been writing stories, and I put it down for a decade and a half, and getting back into it has been a struggle. And the worst part of that is that when I was younger, it wasn't a struggle. Like it was so easy, right? It just would, like, I'd stay up till 3 a.m. writing because I would get so into it. And now I'm like, okay, I don't even want to do like a half an hour.
Yeah.
But as a coach, I'm like, well, one thing that I need is an accountability partner. And so I have an accountability partner as of today, and we've committed to writing 30 minutes every day this week. And I was like, okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm writing for 30 minutes. And it started real slow, and it was like pulling teeth. And by the next time I looked at the clock, it was 1:35, and I was like, whoa, that was awesome. Like, and it was just like that. It was like, and I kept telling myself, I don't get into the flow like I used to. It's like, I just wasn't giving myself the space to do it. Or the
that's really what it boils down to. It's like, you just need to find the time, make the time, we're never going to have all the time that we want to do all of the things, but if we can just create it ourselves by, putting aside even like 15 minutes, that's honestly what I tell most of my clients is whatever you're trying to do, schedule out 15 minutes. If you're trying to work out, again, when you haven't in your entire life, start with 15 minutes, do 5 squats, just break it down as tiny as you need to just do it, because once you see the results, you're going to continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was one of my very first blog articles that I wrote, 2 or 3 years ago, was, do you find time or do you make time? Mm-hmm. If it's important to you, it's going to be on your calendar.
Yes.
Like that's what's going to happen. Like things that get put on your calendar usually get done. So put it on your calendar. I'm going to take my own advice and do that when we're done talking.
Yeah, it's prioritizing those, even the smallest things. Like I even make my clients schedule in their self-care. Like you put a reminder on your phone to, take a bath at the end of the night or read a book or whatever that thing is, just forcing yourself to just do it.
Yeah. And if you're a technology person and you use Google Calendar, there's actually a feature where it'll find the time in your schedule for you.
Yes. Yep, and it has the reminders built in. It has like all the things that you need right there.
It has the reward system where you get to check it off that you did it. Yes. And no more excuses.
Exactly.
Is there a book that has been impactful in your personal development journey?
The 5-second rule. That was a huge one for me, just because it's very similar to what we're talking about now, as I kept putting things off and almost talking myself out of doing the things that I needed to do. And so now I can stop myself. I don't even use the 5 seconds because, again, like I mentioned before we got on here, ADHD brain, 3 seconds. I can't even give myself a full 5, so I'll count down from 3 and then I do whatever I need to.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll use another writing example. If you want to sit and write for 30 minutes, open a Word document and just start typing, and eventually something's going to come up, and and it's like, I've read so many professional authors that they just sit and write for 8 hours a day and they don't use 90% of what they write.
Yeah.
And it's like, but amateur writers are going to be so attached to every single word that they want, like, all the words are pretty. Like, we want the words that we write to be the ones that we're going to use. But that puts so much pressure
It does.
on it being good.
Yeah.
And we don't operate well under pressure.
No.
Pressure doesn't make us perform better, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I feel like there's a certain amount of pressure that we need to really begin excelling. So like putting deadlines on things, when technically there's not a deadline, but in your mind you have to create one. I feel like there's certain things like that are beneficial, but that all in or all out mentality or end all be all of like, hey, you put it on paper, you're going to use it. That can definitely hinder anything you go to do.
For sure. So where can our listeners find you?
momstrongmindset.com is my website. And if you are on Facebook, which most of my followers are, the Mom Strong Tribe is my group where I hang out. You can just put in Mom Strong and I'm typically the first person that pops up. So yeah, that's where to find me. And feel free, Stephanie Chapman, you can friend request me. And I know there's a lot of me, but if you find my group, you'll find me. I'll just put it that way.
Perfect. And there'll be a link to your Facebook group and your website in the show description. But
awesome.
Well, thank you for coming today and being, open and vulnerable with your mom guilt conversation. And I've heard it so much where, especially entrepreneurial moms, we feel guilty when we're working and we feel guilty when we're not. And so that's just 24/7 feeling guilt. And that's not fun for anybody. And that's not a recipe for a happy life.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Awesome. Sounds great. So we will have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.